This validation of game-stopping disagreement also manifested itself at the divisional level. Interdivisional rivalries at times seemed more important, more heated, than the battle with external competitors. Early in my IBM career, I was shocked when an IBM hardware division struck a deal with Oracle, a company that is an archrival of the IBM software unit, without even telling our software unit in advance. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for a pragmatic, opportunistic response to complex market realities. I've discussed earlier the need for competition, whereby we both cooperate and compete with the same companies. But to accomplish that, it takes a mature awareness of who you are as a company, where your deep interests lie, and where they don't. This wasn't that sort of sophisticated ambidextrousness. IBM product salespeople were legendary for going to customers and denigrating another IBM product that might serve in equal capacity in a customer solution. In fact, IBM divisions would bid against one another, and a customer often got multiple IBM bids. Research and development units would hide projects they were working on, so other parts of the company would not learn of them and try to take advantage of their knowledge. It went on in a staggering array of internal competition. Teamwork was not valued, sought, or rewarded. This unique brew of rigidity and hostility often landed on my own doorstep. I discovered that just because I asked someone to do something, that didn't mean the task got done. When I discovered this days or weeks later, I'd ask why. One executive said, "It seemed like a soft request." Or, "I didn't agree with you." Ironically, at the same time, some people were handing out orders in my name. "Lou said that you should," or "Glue wants you to." Then they followed up on the orders so often, so persistently, and so loudly that the tasks actually got done. Unfortunately, many were things I knew nothing about and sometimes didn't want done. It got to the point where I had to hold a special meeting with everyone who had access to me for the specific purpose of banning Lou said orders on any subject. Bureaucracy that hurts. The word bureaucracy has taken on a negative connotation in most institutions today. The truth is that no large enterprise can work without bureaucracy. Bureaucrats, or staff people, provide coordination among disparate line organizations, establish and enforce corporate-wide strategies that allow the enterprise to avoid duplication, confusion, and conflict, and provide highly specialized skills that cannot be duplicated because of cost or simply the shortage of available resources. These functions were all critical to an organization like IBM. Coordination was critical because we had a four-way matrix at IBM: geography, product, customer, and solutions. We also desperately needed corporate-wide standards for many aspects of the company, e.g., commonality of products around the world for customers who operate globally, and common HR processes so we could move talent quickly and effectively whenever it was needed. And, given the complexity of a highly technical, global company, we clearly needed specialized resources that served the entire company, e.g., branding specialists and intellectual property lawyers. The problem at IBM was not the presence of bureaucracy but its size and how it was used. In IBM's culture of BNO, a multi-phased conflict in which units competed with one another, hid things from one another, and wanted to control access to their territory from other IBMers, the foot soldiers were IBM staff people. Instead of facilitating coordination, they manned the barricades and protected the borders. For example, huge staffs spent countless hours debating and managing transfer pricing terms between IBM units instead of facilitating a seamless transfer of products to customers. Staff units were duplicated at every level of the organization because no managers trusted any cross-unit colleagues to carry out the work. Meetings to decide issues that cut across units were attended by throngs of people because everyone needed to be present to protect his or her turf. The net result of all this jockeying for position was a very powerful bureaucracy working at all levels of the company, tens of thousands trying to protect the prerogatives, resources, and profits of their units, and thousands more trying to bestow order and standards on the mob. IBM lingo: I'm a strong believer in the power of language. The way an organization speaks to its various audiences says a lot about how it sees itself. Everywhere I've worked, I've devoted a good deal of personal attention to the organization's voice, to the conversations it maintains with all of its important constituencies both inside and outside the company. And I have chosen my own words whether in written, electronic, or face-to-face communications very carefully. The truth is, you can learn a great deal about a place simply by listening to how it talks. Ordinary discourse at IBM in the early 1990s spoke volumes about the culture's insularity, volumes that were often pretty funny in a rueful sort of way. There was a special vocabulary inside IBM, words and phrases used only by IBMers. Also, like the federal government and other bureaucracies, we just loved creating and using acronyms like MDQ, FSD, GPD, and SAA. As a result, in the early days I would sit through meetings and frequently have no idea what a presenter was talking about. I didn't pretend that I did, however. I'd stop the speaker and ask for a plain English translation. It was jarring, but people quickly got the point. Here are some of the most frequently used and colorful IBMisms. I heard crisp up, tweak, and swizzle, things one had to do to improve a foil presentation. Boil the ocean, to use all means and options available to get something done. Down level, describes a document that has since been improved or tweaked and swizzled, used most frequently with me when I complained about something. Lou, you're working from a down level version. Level set, what you do at the beginning of a meeting to get everyone working from the same facts. Take ITOFF line, what two or more people do with an issue. That bogs down a meeting, namely, discuss it after the meeting. Hard stop, a time at which a meeting must end no matter what. I grew to like this expression and use it to this day. One performer, an employee with the company's highest performance rating. Management initiated separation, getting fired, commonly used in acronym form. I've been mic'd. Left the business, what an employee who was fired has done. Measured mile, where a manager puts an employee who within a year will most likely leave the business. Pushback, what you run into when someone doesn't agree with you. Nonconcur, what people do just before pushback. Lobs, lines of business or business units, pronounced like what you might do with a tennis ball. I have always been an advocate for use of plain language that one's customers easily understand, whether it be for invoices, contracts, or simple correspondence. So I decided to begin the end of widespread in-house terms. In an internal memo in 1993, I wrote, "We are also going to take this opportunity to rename some of our organization units to make the nomenclature more understandable or more transparent to our customers, call it customer-friendly. Also, we will no longer use the term LOB. Our product units will now be called divisions, presiders over process." Soon after I joined the company, I asked one of the most senior executives to provide me with a detailed analysis of a major money-losing business at IBM. I did this not only because I wanted the insight from the analysis but also to test this highly rated executive. 3 days later I asked him how the work was progressing. He said, "I'll check with the team and get back to you." At the end of the week, I got the same response, "I'll check with the team leader and let you know." He later did. When this little scene played out a third time, I finally said, "Why don't you just give me the name of the person doing the work, and from now on I'll speak directly with him or her." What I discovered was that senior executives often presided. They organized work, then waited to review it when it was done. You were a worker early in your career, but once you climbed to the top, your role was to preside over a process. Well, my kind of executives dig into the details, work the problems day to day, and lead by example, not title. They take personal ownership of and responsibility for the end result. They see themselves as drivers rather than as a box high on the organization chart. When I told this senior executive that I expected him to be a direct and active participant in the problem-solving work I asked him to undertake, he was stunned. That was not how he was trained, nor was that expected corporate behavior at the time. The incident was an eye-opener for me. I had an enormous team of executives. I would need to develop a cadre of leaders. I do not think IBM senior executives would have described their activities quite the way I did. They were simply acting the roles that the long-established interior culture asked them to perform. This is
how things were done.
It did not mean they were not bright or committed. It was part of a huge, complicated mosaic that had come to define action and behavior. This same situation also extended to the ever-present and powerful administrative assistants, the nonconcur system, and the role of the corporate officer. IBM had a practice of electing senior people to the title of corporate officers. Once you were so recognized, this title stayed with you for life, like tenure. At a university, your performance post-election was not a factor in your continuation in this role. 22. Leading by principles. In an organization in which procedures had become untethered from their origins and intent, and where codification had replaced personal responsibility, the first task was to eradicate process itself. I had to send a breath of fresh air through the whole system. So I took a 180-degree turn and insisted there would be few rules, codes, or books of procedures.